Hey, welcome back to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. I'm your host, Coach Zach. I'm here with Coach Brandy and Coach Kelsey. And today we are talking about part 2 of our menopause episode, primarily about your training and nutrition protocol to ease the symptoms and overcome a lot of the symptoms from that. But before we get into today's episode, I want to give a shout out to a client of the week. I don't think he's going to go through menopause this week. This week's client of the week is Tim Whitney. And I hope he listens to this episode, maybe so he has a better understanding of his wife when she goes through this. But Tim just had hip surgery and was out for several weeks. It was pretty extensive surgery, and he's back and he's just doing phenomenal, and he's back to the grind, and we're super happy that he's back. He's such a great guy, and his wife Dawn is so amazing as well. So
yeah, it's great working with Tim. Again, like many of the clients we mentioned on our podcast, he comes in with a great attitude and works really hard.
Yeah.
So I just really appreciate Tim for those two things. And even though he is coming back from surgery, he's just really trying his best to, go as hard as he can within his limitations. So
yeah,
I appreciate that, Tim.
Love it.
Good job.
All right. Okay, guys, we are part 2 here of menopause. So last week, Brandy really painted a grim picture of all of the things that can go wrong around menopause and all the symptoms and side effects and all of that. But this week, we want to talk about your training and your nutrition around menopause. So I want to start with nutrition, because I think that is what, in my experience, conversations with women, what happens is they maybe haven't struggled with their weight. Anytime they wanted to lose some weight, all they did was cut back on their calories and do a little extra running or cardio, and they would lose 5-10 pounds, and then they're back to where they wanted to be. They hit perimenopause, menopause, that stops working for them entirely. And so what they do is they just do that more aggressively, right? They try to increase their cardio even more. They reduce their calories even more. They're like afraid to eat.
Cut carbs out.
Yeah, they're afraid to eat because they feel like if they do, it's just like going to cause this weight gain. And it's like the total opposite of what you should be doing. So, Brandy, what does healthy nutrition look like in order to maintain healthy body weight or prevent that your body holding on to that fat when you're in this stage of life?
Yeah, so I want to talk about healthy nutrition for active women. So I think these same things won't apply for someone who's sedentary. So we're talking about women who are active. They're in the gym, working out, and living an active lifestyle. So I think for that type of woman, everything that you think that you're doing, you should not be doing. So just like Zach said, I hear all the time from women, I'm just, cutting my calories, reducing the carbs, walking a ton on the treadmill, and those are going to have the opposite effect of what you really should be doing. So what should you be doing? You should be fueling your body for your workouts, prioritizing protein. So that is number one. Prioritize protein, fueling for your workouts, and making sure that you're eating enough calories to give your body the energy that it needs to, one, your body's going through all of these changes, and you need the calories to support your systems as we go through these changes. But then also to have that impact of losing body fat and gaining skeletal muscle, you need the protein and the energy to be able to do that, and the energy comes from your fuel.
And I think that one thing that I learned researching this was a woman needs 15 grams of protein pre-workout, which is not a lot. No. That's pretty low. But post-workout, after a weight training session, a female needs 40 to 60 grams of protein in order to give their muscle tissue the fuel or the amino acids that it needs to repair the muscle tissue.
Yes.
Because we talked about in the last episode how these decreases in your hormones impacts your muscle tissue and elasticity and your ability to recover.
Yes.
Like, give me an example of one female client that we have that we know of that consumes 40 to 60 grams of protein post-workout.
Yeah, I don't know if I can name someone specifically.
That's
that
a
is doing
dramatic.
that.
That's a dramatic amount of protein. A male is different. A male can get their protein over the course of their entire day. It doesn't need to be isolated to after, like, post-workout. A female needs 15 grams prior and 40 to 60 grams post-workout within an hour in order to recover properly, to give their muscle tissue the fuel that it needs. That's staggering. That, like, blew me away when I learned that.
That's so important. And the 15 grams prior, so that's someone who's working out early in the morning. So, I would say for someone who's working out later in the day, you should be getting your protein throughout the day. I would say start early with getting that overall protein count in. But yes, a minimum of 15 grams of protein pre-workout and then 40 to 50 post.
And absolutely the worst thing that you can do as a female, like perimenopause, postmenopause, during menopause, is intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolute worst thing you can do.
Big thing.
Yeah.
That was the same thing when I was like hearing about all of this. Someone who's 31 now, and this is something that I need to plan for and prepare for and have the knowledge on. I've always been like a morning workout type of person. I get up, do not do as I do. I learned real quick by just researching this. I get up, I have my pre-workout, I go to the gym. I have not eaten since dinner the night before. I get home from the gym. I usually fast because I go to work, and then I come home and then I eat lunch. So I haven't eaten anything all day. The only thing I've had is like a protein bar, maybe if I grabbed one, and then pre-workout. And now I'm hearing like, hey, you need to eat a little bit of a healthy fat or a little bit, tiny bit of like calories before you work out. If you're going to work out, you're that type of person who works out first thing in the morning. And then you need to eat within 30 minutes to an hour this much protein right afterward. Otherwise, everything you just did, useless. It's like, oh, well, I've been doing that wrong.
Yeah, that's to help support, muscle protein synthesis. So as you're working out, you're tearing down those muscle fibers, then you need the protein to build those muscle fibers, and you need to get that into your system fast. And that also helps with, that soft tissue repair and everything that we talked about in the previous episode. So number one, if you do one thing with your nutrition, increase your protein. So that 40 to 50 grams after the workout is super important. But then also it's really important to try throughout the totality of the day. I think what I coach people on is at a minimum try to get a gram of protein per pound of body weight or ideal body weight. So, if that's 130 pounds, then 130 grams of protein minimum throughout the day.
Yeah.
So, and it's good, I think, to space that throughout the day. Start in the morning, and then every meal that you have throughout the day, prioritize protein. Like, protein is your staple, and then the other things that you have along with that protein, your fiber-dense carbohydrates, fruits, veggies, and your healthy fats. Like, pair that with your protein, but get that protein in.
And fasting increases your cortisol levels.
Yep.
It negatively impacts your estrogen and your thyroid function. And those are already impacted by menopause, and you're just amplifying that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how else to say it to get it across to someone. A calorie is not a calorie. If you're thinking I need to reduce my calories down and eat less, you have the wrong approach, and it's not going to end well for you. You're not going to get the desired result. We need to take a different approach.
The studies that were done on fasting and the positive impacts that can have were done on men primarily men.
Correct. Yeah, that was the other thing that I found super interesting.
And that doesn't apply. I love, so this woman, I suggest every woman follow Stacy Sims, Dr. Stacy Sims. She has great information and research, and, you know, all the data and the studies that she points to are really important. But she says women are not small men, and what works for men, many times don't work for women. And so that's why fasting does not work for women.
That's a great segue into the training protocol, because like you saying that from a nutrition standpoint, that's true. From a training protocol, it's not so true. And so one thing that I think is really interesting that I learned for women that are menstruating, okay, so leading up to perimenopause, your training protocol, your focus should be to basically max out, to lift to failure, like picking up weights that are so heavy for you that you can only do a certain amount of reps, and then you fail, like 5 reps. Okay, so training for strength, and you need to really be pushing it to the max, as you know, in order to tone up, to gain skeletal muscle mass, but also to add this stressor to your body, a good stressor, so that your body is prepared to handle the stress of menopause.
Yes.
That was fascinating to me.
Yeah.
If you're training super hard in the years leading up to perimenopause, menopause, you won't be impacted as much because your body's already adapted to this stress. So when your estrogen levels start to drop, metabolically, your body's prepared to deal with that. Mm-hmm. So you're almost replacing your estrogen with hard training.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. But then it changes a little bit once you hit menopause.
Yeah.
Your goal changes a little bit.
So once you hit menopause, the goal is lift heavy. And heavy is relative, and, you know, heavy is different for everyone, but lift heavy.
That doesn't change, but the
cardio side
the lift heavy part is still there, but it's like, don't max out now.
Yes.
Because you're at a higher risk of injury and tear.
Yep.
So when you're premenopause, you can do that.
Yep.
When you are perimenopause and menopause, it's like, we still need to lift heavy, but we're not taking it to the absolute max.
Yes, you don't have to go to failure with your lifts. Yes.
Right. And then the cardiovascular piece changes
That's
as well.
The other piece where I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. I think a lot of women think they need to walk on the treadmill, they need to go on these long runs, they need to do all of this, quote, zone 2 training, but that is the exact opposite of what you need to do. And then things like, I'll just call it out, Orange Theory Fitness, where they say it's high intensity interval training. Really, it's an hour of zone 2 training, because you can't be at a high intensity for an hour-long class. Right. So you're essentially in zone 2 for an hour in these circuit training classes. So we need to really hit those intensities for very short periods of time, like 10 to 30 seconds. And then let your body rest and recover, and then get after it again. So that max stress on the body that impacts the central nervous system will then affect your visceral fat and, you know, changes down the line.
And these longer sessions of cardio at most should be limited to once a week.
Yes.
Like if you are going to do that because mentally you love to just go for a long run, or you love to cycle or whatever, great, go and do that. Keep it to 1 day a week. Your metabolic training, short burst, short duration. 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, 10 to 30 seconds recover, 10 to 30 seconds recover. And that's the protocol there. So again, like the approach that everybody takes, eat less, more cardio, totally the wrong approach.
Right.
You need to be strength training. You need to be lifting heavy. As you're leading up to menopause, it's like focus on movement quality and maxing out. You get into menopause, post-menopause, strength train heavy, don't max out, and then hit it really, really hard on the intervals for short periods of time.
And that can be 2 to 3 times a week with that short like interval training. And that pairs really nicely with the strength training. And if you want to walk, you want to go to yoga, you want to do Pilates, do that for your mental health, do that to meet up with your friends, like do that for your social life. But that's not going to give you the impact that you want to have in terms of body composition.
Yeah. And Brandy, you came to me several months ago and you said, hey, Zach, there's this menopause course that I would really like to take and get certified in. And, we were like, absolutely, that sounds great. And so you're kind of becoming the expert on this. And so for any of our female clients that are, wanting to prepare for this or going through it and aren't sure how to navigate it, like come and talk to Brandy. We are developing a program specifically around menopause that she's going to be spearheading. And so if you guys feel like, hey, I'm lost, I need some help, I need some professional help from a nutritional standpoint, from a training standpoint, like just from a support standpoint, Brandy's going to be your go-to there. So, all right, guys, that's all we got for you. Thanks for listening. And as always, we'll be back next week with more great stuff. Thank you so much for listening to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. Do you have a question that you'd like for us to answer live on the podcast? If so, all you need to do is head over to the Apple Podcast app on your iPhone and do 3 simple things. First, leave us a rating and review telling me what you think of the podcast. In that review, ask anything you want related to health, fitness, or nutrition. And if you want a shout out, leave us your Instagram handle or name. That's all you have to do. Then listen to hear your questions answered live on the next Q&A episode.